Hey everyone, this is Lisa Grace, and this is take two, by the way. I just tried to record without even checking what season we're in. Guys, we are in season 6 of the Teach Middle East podcast. Woo! Welcome to a new academic year. Welcome to a new season of the podcast with amazing guests lined up, more amazing than I deserve. And I think it just keeps getting better and better. I have with me Barry Cooper. By the way, Barry's got like a whole middle name going on situation there. It's Barry Anthony Cooper. He is the founding principal of the Global College, and we're going to chat unscripted today about what we need to be focusing on as educators as we go into this new academic year. So Barry doesn't even know the title of the podcast. That is how cryptic I have been, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm thinking, you know what? I don't want robots on this podcast. I want to add value, and I don't want people going off and rehearsing some gibberish to come and spit at me and spit at you, my wonderful listeners. By the way, before I even called Barry in, I have to say, you guys have been phenomenal. Rashid, who is our editor and podcast statistician, big word, actually came back and said, we are now at 37,500 subscribers. So talk to me about how much you guys have made me so happy with that number. I can't imagine that many people listening to me droning on in their ears, but I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. Barry, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, and it's actually a real pleasure for me to be here because obviously I've read your stuff and I've listened to the podcast and seen kind of your posts on social media. So I was quite chuffed when you said, "Hey, do you fancy coming on?" And I did, of course, to get to ask, "Oh, what are we talking about?" So yeah, let's go for it.
So here's the thing with the podcast and with the people that I try to reach out to and talk to, I want to get their views. I want to get their insights on what we need to be thinking about in education. And I follow you on LinkedIn particularly, and I read your stuff. There are people that when their posts come up on LinkedIn, I don't scroll. And I do scroll past others. I'm sorry, I am human. You know, the scroll is real, but I do stop and read. And I love the fact that you tackle some of the bigger questions in education. And I also love the fact that you're coming from it from a learning perspective, not a I know everything kind of perspective. So I love that. Barry, tell me a little bit about you, because I know you did a stint in Dubai. So I want you to take me back and give me the quick career profile. So
Quick career. How far back do I go? Okay, a long time ago, on in a part of East London, far away, I thought I was going to be a priest, and then I thought I was going to be a soldier. This is my uncle's profession and my father's profession. So it kind of, this is how we would all.
who's the priest, who's the soldier?
My uncle was a priest and my father was a soldier briefly, and then yeah, he was pensioned out with an injury. But the and then I went to university. I loved studying history. And I made that mistake that we all do when we come out of university and think money and the city and banking. And I dove into a job in the city and I hated it from day one. Oh my word. I was clawing, I was tunneling. It was, can I get over the wire? Can I get under the get? Anything I could do to get out. And a friend of mine who was leaving teaching because it wasn't for him to go and become quite a successful police officer, actually. He worked in the flying squad. Said, look, I reckon you should think about teaching. Okay, I'll give it a go. So I thought about it. I talked to some people, and then I got this part-time role at Epsom College in the south of England on the condition that they trained me up. And so I was part of the GTP, which was the thing that came before Teach First. And I did my qualifications there, and it was great. It was amazing. It was brilliant because I got to learn from this brilliant group of people. So I shared, classrooms with a guy, James Postle, for example. I shared a classroom with him. He is really successful director of missions. I think he's stepping back from that now. I shared a classroom with a guy called Murray Todd, who's now the head of Wellington in India. I learned from a guy called Alan Scanning, who was the head of the department, and I learned as a young guy. And this is the whole thing for me is teaching and being in a school for me has always been about me learning, and then me trying to give that back as much as I can. And so I did Epsom and then moved to Scotland with my wife for 10 years and did every single job you can in the school apart from being head. So I was the director of admissions, I was director of marketing, I was the academic director. And then we wanted an adventure and moving overseas. So we did 3 years in Shanghai with Wellington, Shanghai, which is amazing. And then helped open Brighton College Dubai with Marco Longmore, who's an amazing guy, absolutely brilliant head, really fantastic leader. And then this opportunity opened up in Madrid. And during COVID, we were thinking, can we get back a bit closer to home? And my wife, being far smarter than me, speaks Spanish, and it was kind of an opportunity for the family. So we up sticks just at the end of lockdown, came to Madrid, and working with the team behind the Global College, kind of worked to get it off the ground, and we opened in 2022. So we've just had our second cohort through. So we're a 16 to 18 school. So we just do the IB diploma at the moment. And we've just had our second cohort through. I'm really proud of them. I'm going to make a point of not talking about stats at all, because I think it's all about the individual. And there's some great kids who are going off to do really interesting things, which and I'm very, very happy for them.
So the global college is just for post 16.
Yeah, at the moment we're IB diploma. So we're a startup school. So we decided instead of starting at the younger end, we would start at the older end and see how that developed. So it's an ongoing project. Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to build and go down the year groups as you build. What that name, what's behind it? The global college.
Yeah, that was there when I arrived, but the thinking behind it was really to try and be as international as possible. So we're in Madrid, and very specifically we intentionally ensure that at least 50% of our cohort are from overseas, so we're not Spanish. So in Madrid, you'll find different kind of types of school, and the international slash private schools, it's a half and half often. So you often find it's very, dominated by overseas, or it's very dominated by Spanish. And so we wanted to try and have that global mindset about internationalism, but also to walk the walk and make sure that we were bringing the Spanish of the Spanish school, but also bringing the internationalism and the globalism to a global school. So that's where it came about. It's kind of a name that was designed to be an intention almost.
So tell me, what are some of the unique things that you guys are doing there that you think is worth talking about?
Um, I think what unique things we do. We've got this great relationship with IE University. So if anyone, your listeners will probably know about IE. So started life as a business school, is now a full kind of university, has a vertical campus in Madrid, fantastic place, run by really energized team that I really get on with. I was fortunate they were quite nice and they put me on their advisory board for headmasters. I think it's because we have a relationship and I was down the road. But there's some really fantastic people like Miguel Costa, who runs admissions, Mar Hurtado, these people who are really kind of driving a fantastic university. Now, with them, we run an entrepreneurship program. So we kill the timetable for, in total, probably about 7 or 8 days during the course of the first year for our DP1s. And the idea is to get them connected with university professors who come in, and because it's IE and it's business and it's entrepreneurship, they do this all the time, and they give us this crash course in entrepreneurship for our DP1s. And when we talked about this and we were setting this up, we said, well, look, we don't want this to be about, the next Bill Gates and the next Steve Jobs or, whatever. We want it to be about, the real importance about entrepreneurship. Things
Mm.
like problem spotting, problem solving, ideation, teamwork, communication, all these sorts of things. So it's as valuable to someone who wants to be a doctor as it is to someone who wants to go and study business or economics at LSE.
Mm.
So we really wanted to focus in on the skills, and the team are absolutely amazing. And what we do is we take the kids on that journey all the way to the point where they have to pitch an idea, and they have semi-finals, and then they have finals. So there's a great Google campus here in Madrid, and we take that over for the afternoon, and we get our finalists up on stage. We have someone come in as a guest judge, and then the winners. I think actually this year it was the top two get to pitch at the equivalent at IE University, and they usually hold their own. So it's about encouraging skill development, encouraging the idea of entrepreneurship, which I think is a really important part of moving forward in our modern world. And also getting the kids doing something out of the box and doing something difficult and getting them to struggle,
Hmm.
because sometimes it can be all about let's do the rote learning, let's do the math problem. No, 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 no. I want you to go start me a business about ride share. Go. So it's something different for them to do. I think that's one thing. How many things am I allowed that I'm proud of?
Go ahead with at least another one.
I think something I really love is that there's we've really worked hard to encourage a collegiate sense of agency for our students and for our the team members, and for the parents as well. So there's this constant conversation, and we work on that process, that idea of always trying to find a way to say yes. So if a student or a colleague comes to me and says, "Hey, look, I've got this idea. It's a bit mad, but," my first instinct is always, right, okay, let's keep saying yes until it becomes obvious this isn't the right thing to do. And I think from that, we've had some really interesting projects, both kind of staff driven, where they take hold of their own interests, and we have projects that obviously involve the students, but more importantly the students, where we've had people set up their own charity, set up their own social movement. We've got a school charity that's now in its third year, that's been handed down from the very first year, that works on food and resource collection for natural disasters. And so you may have read, we had something here in Valencia. Previous to that, there was the earthquake in Morocco. So it was these things that the children really wanted to get involved with, but very student led. And for us as a team, we try to take a step back and be that safety net to say, okay, you've run into a problem, let's talk it through. But I think that idea, it's not metricized, I can't measure it, but trying to really foster student agency. And I think that's something everyone buys into.
Yeah. I love the fact that you guys do that whole entrepreneurship piece. I was talking this summer to a friend of mine about obviously exams. And his child does not want to go to university. He actually wants to become a farmer. And the dad told me, of all the people in the world to choose, was like, can you talk some sense into him? And I was like, technically, I don't think I'm the right person, because if he's really sure about what he wants to do as it relates to farming, and he really does have a plan and he's not using it as an excuse to skive off, I would say to you, let him go do some courses in agriculture, use that university money that you saved up to give him a head start, maybe lease him a piece of property, help him buy some equipment, if he has a solid plan. Because in the end, he could go back and study at university later on when he's made his money, or he's done what he wants to do. Or he could just never go back and be an absolute smash hit success. It really is about getting to the bottom of who he is as an individual and what he aspires to do, not the whole cliche go to school, go to university because that's what I did as a parent. So yeah, I love that whole entrepreneurship piece, because some students might through your program discover, hey, do I really want to continue this, or do I want to now go off and really do that idea that I've had? And when you hear from lots of entrepreneurs, they dropped out of school. I'm not advocating that, hello, but if that's your path, that's your path. I want to shift gears though. This is the start of a new academic year. You are ahead, and the whole podcast is about what we need to be mindful of as we are going into this new shift, this new year. What are some of and I want your top three. You're speaking to educators, you're speaking to school leaders. What do they need to be mindful of going into this new year?
God, I would never presume to lecture anybody about what I think they should be doing. I think every single context is different. I think every single school is different. I can tell you what I'm focusing on, and then people can take kind of that.
Not as a school, as an individual. So you're not lecturing, you're saying, in my opinion, this is what I think is neat.
Okay, all right. So in my opinion, I think the big ticket item at the moment is AI. I
Mhm.
think that's the big ticket item, and that's what I'm focusing on. It's day one with the team. I'm going to be talking about it next week. Day one with the students. The week after that, I'm going to be talking about it with them, about how we use it, how we understand it, how we see it, both in the short, medium, and the long term, and how to do two things, I think. One, maximize the benefit for them. Um, and two, avoid them falling into the traps that I think it is laying for us. And it's laying for educators, it's laying quite a few.
What
So
are
that's
the traps? Don't go, don't move. Stay with it. Stick with
stay
it.
with it. Okay,
What
all
are
right.
the
So I
traps?
think I think the traps are they're how do I describe them? Cognitive. So it's about thinking. I think one of the biggest issues we have as an industry in terms of teaching is we've been metricized both by groups owning schools who are interested in the bottom line, by governments who are interested in the statistics to prove that they're better than the people who came before them. So numbers, 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 metrics, metrics, metrics. What matters to the people who are kind of pulling all these strings at the top is the things that you can show for what you do. For the people in the classroom, what we're really interested in is, does little Jenny or little Timmy understand more today than they did yesterday? Now, with AI, we have this fantastic opportunity for young people to, get great grades, do their homework, push ideas, just produce, 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 produce. It's a trap that we can fall into to, just deliver and hand over a thing to get a mark to move on to the next stage of our lives. And that is a trap both in the immediate term, because once you get there, you're not going to know what you're doing. And in the long term, in terms of the eroding of our way of educating. I think, and there's lots of people that are talking about this. It's a very, very broad space. I think what we have to be mindful of is how we encourage understanding in our students, how we encourage thought in our students, how we encourage. What do you think should be the one and only question that we ask our students? Not where's your essay, but what do you think about this subject? What do you think about this idea? How would you take this idea forward? I think the issue with AI is it stops conversations, it stops interactions, and only in interactions, only with experience, only with action, only with questioning. And this is going back to some of my favorite philosophers. It's Camus and Sartre and Heidegger. You know, we get to a point where students are really grasping the nettle and grasping the ideas that they have in front of them. If we step away from that, if we go, and I get emails every day about AI this and AI that, and this will improve, go away. What we want to be able to do is we want students to understand where they were, where they are, and how they got there. And it's through the doing, it's through the struggle. And if they're not struggling and they're not learning through that struggle, then what's happening is we're absolving the responsibility to do. We're absolving the decision making. It's like going to a restaurant and asking your date what you should have. Sorry? No. You have to do the thing. Ask her what she likes and say, "Oh, I kind of like that as well. What do you think I might like if I like this and this?" You can have a conversation with AI. You can use it as a facilitator. You can use it as a collaborator on your project. But if you for a second hand over to these AI tools your prerogative to have those thoughts, then we're running into some dangerous ground. So that's a very kind of, I've been doing a lot of reading about this summer to try and figure out what I think, in that Schopenhauer way. It's like I'm writing a book, so I know what I think. If you want to know what you think, write your own book. Um, But I think it's really important for us to, as we go into the new year, encourage thought, encourage critical thinking, encourage philosophy, encourage reading, encourage history, encourage geography, encourage politics, encourage people to look around. I think in the UAE especially, you have an amazing opportunity because there are 200 different nationalities that live in the UAE. You have every single opportunity to go and talk to someone from Azerbaijan or Kazakhstan or Peru or North Macedonia, wherever it may be. You have this chance to say, what's it like there? Tell me about you, and to build those connections, collaborations. Because that's what a school is a collection of relationships. And I think the more we build on that idea, the better we're going to be able to use the new technology that will keep on coming, and it's going to come like a tidal wave. And the more tools we have to deal with it, the better we'll be able to deal with that technology when it gets here, and to use it for the best ends of our students. Because I think as teachers, we're not. I mean, for me, I don't. This is why I don't like talking about stats or things like that. I don't really care about the grades. I care about how well have I helped that student understand themselves and the world. And I think that as a mission statement for all educators is probably, it's probably intrinsic in most of us who work in schools. That's what we really want. We want them to have that light bulb moment. Doesn't matter if it's an A star or a C. If it's something that's gone up from where they previously were, it's a win, no matter what. You can tell I'm passionate about this, can't you? Sorry, I'm going off on.
Listen, I'm here for it. But I need to ask you though, I
Yeah.
hear all the warnings that you're giving, and I can also hear my listeners in my head going, then how do we implement it? How
Right,
do we do it?
absolutely. Yeah, that's the really difficult thing. And that's where it's not down to one person to tell everyone what to do. It's down to teachers talking to each other and coming up with ideas. I think the implementation, it will be an evolving kind of body of work over the coming years about how we implement these ideas, how we relate to technology, how we work with technology. I think the for us at the college, we work on four principles in terms of kind of AI. So you have to understand what AI is. So both teachers and students have to have an understanding of what an AI actually is before you start using it. You have to understand the topic before you start using it. So this is principles. This isn't, you can't legislate this. You can't punish people for not doing it, but this is what you want them to do. It has to be used as a collaborator, and anything that comes out of that has to be used through a lens of critical thought. So those are our four laws. So we based them off Asimov's laws, and I've spoken about this before. Just in terms of how, because you can't legislate the tech, because all of these companies are giving this to you for free, which means, sorry, we're the product, because we're building this thing for them with the interaction and with everything else. So if you're going to use it, fine, use it, but legislate yourself and use it within a framework that can protect yourself and can ensure that you're making headway. And this is just a starting point. I mean, I would love for people to write to me or tell me, actually, you know what, Barry, you need to think of this as a different way, because teaching is a team sport. Yeah. I mean, we're all in this because we want kids to get better. We want kids to succeed. That's it. I mean, I don't care if I teach them or if somebody else teaches them, it's still my responsibility. And if I can help somebody else, fantastic. I know for a fact, 99% of teachers would turn around and say, if I can help that guy, yeah, I will. And any idea is a good idea. Yeah, there's no such thing as a bad idea. Yeah, it might not be right then. I mean, okay, right. No, okay, the 0.1% are bad ideas, but you know what yeah.
I didn't want to interrupt. I was gonna be like,
Yeah. Yeah. In teaching, you don't have it might not work then, but it might work with this. Or you have that other phrase that you always kick in. This could work if. So you can then moderate it, and then you can change it, and you can add to it, and or you can take away from it. And that's what educators, I think, in the coming year, 5 years, 10 years, need to be talking to one another, need to be collaborating with one another. The more we talk to each other as educators, the more ideas we get from one another, the better the outcome. I think what people often look for is they look for this central or single idea, this magic bullet. It's not there. It doesn't exist. It's El Dorado. You're never going to find it. So you have to think about what's right for me now, what's right for my students right now. And I guarantee every single teacher listening to this, there's someone somewhere out there who's got an idea that might help you. So the more you connect, and this is why I love LinkedIn. I honestly, I know I post, but I usually post kind of sitting on a train in the morning, and it's the reading of it, it's the other ideas that come back. That's where the benefit is. On socials, meetups, teacher meets, all of these sorts of things. And people say, "Oh, if I go to a conference," I mean, I'm not a big conference fan, frankly. So I think there's lots of people standing up and giving sermons about how great this thing is. On, by the way, it only costs you £9,999 person. But the interactions you have, go to a conference, don't go into the play talks, go and talk to people. Because I guarantee you, in those interactions with other teachers, you're going to get fantastic ideas and you'll meet fantastic people. I don't think I've yet met a teacher I couldn't kind of get on with, or see kind of how they were doing kind of brilliant work.
Yeah. And I also wanted to touch on something that you talked about in terms of when a student uses it and they use it in the wrong way, there is this risk of cognitive decline and that, they become over reliant. How are schools, because you're leading a school, how are schools going to be able to manage the use? Because they might be able to block it at school, but they can't block it. So what are we doing?
Can I be controversial?
Go on.
Okay, so the reality is that there are going to be two kinds of users of AI within schools, and there are going to be users who help use AI to help them understand and get better at what they do and how
Mhm.
they understand the thing, and there are going to be people who use AI to do their homework and turn stuff in. The people who use it to help them understand and use it in the right way are going to get up. They're going to go higher and higher and higher and higher. The people who use it just to turn stuff in are going to stagnate. We are self-interested creatures as humans. Yeah, this is why AI is like this buffet of free information. Fast food. We now have fast facts. Type it in. There you go. Bang. I've got an essay on the Dokyo incident in medieval Japan. But if you can get people to understand the difference between doing it this way and doing it this way, then you're going to plug into the self-interest of both the students and the parents, because we as teachers have them for those kind of 6 or 7 hours a day, but parents who can talk to them at home and can see what they're doing are going to be able to help reinforce that message. So I think it's about, I mean, that's one way of doing it, is really kind of hitting the self-interest of the students and helping them understand that eventually doing it in this way is going to get you the great grades, the great outcomes, and not necessarily even to university, but beyond and further. You're gonna actually understand yourself and the world a hell of a lot better than the person who decided that they were just gonna ask ChatGTP to do their math homework.
Yeah. I was on Dubai Eye talking about great inflation today. I mean, by the time this comes out, that might have been a week or more ago. But one of the questions the presenter was asking me was, why do I think that there is great inflation in certain schools? And I said, you're really asking the wrong question. What you should be asking is, why are the exams that the students are taking so high stakes at this point? Why are we waiting 2 years for them to sit down and put on paper knowledge that they've gained, or content, let's call it content that they've gained over the last 2 years? Why are we asking them to regurgitate content? It's not an application of content, it's regurgitation. And if that, and then she said, oh, it's because the universities require it. And I go, that's the problem. The problem is the universities require them to have these grades to come and take courses that will then ask them to do what? Learn more information to spit it back out. So where does it end? And I kind of think we're being the tail is wagging the dog, as they always say. What can be done? And I don't know, we can't answer that. But I just thought of it when you talked about people who would just get the thing to spit out the answer.
I think, I mean, I think there's something that you can play with as school leaders, and this is something I tell the team as well. Is what we need to start with is great teaching. We have to be absolutely brilliant teachers. Grades will take care of themselves. And so I encourage everybody to focus on understanding, to focus on ensuring the students have an understanding of what they're doing, why they're doing it, and rather than kind of rote learning. There are many systems across the world that veer into rote learning. But there are many systems now that are really pushing this other side. So IB, which is what we do, is one of them. So the application side of the skill is something that's rewarded far higher at IB than it is in many other forms of curriculum. So I think that's a starting point. But I think you're right. We can't answer that. It is a much bigger problem than all of us put together. And in systematic change is something that only happens either with I suppose it's the slicing of the Gordian knot. And I don't see we have many leaders around the world who want to do that, or it's over pressure over time, and it's that eventual pressure over time that then cracks the stone and sets the monkey free. I don't know, sorry, I'm using Asian metaphors suddenly. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Here's a question for you, because I know we've talked the AI, and I'm kind of, you get to that saturation point with AI where you're like, okay, I'm all AI'd out now. I cannot do one more talking point on AI. And yes, it's here to stay. We get it. But what else should we be focusing on as we go into this new academic year?
I think
From
I
that
think
or AI.
well, I mean, for me, I think internationalism and globalism and understanding the world in a broader sense, I think is a really important part of our role today. I think it's kind of it's vaguely connected to what we were talking about in terms of AI. But in terms of what people are digesting in their mass media and their news feeds and their social media, I think being able to have um, conversations, honest, open conversations, kind of Chatham House rules conversations almost, with young people about what's going on in the world and what they think about it, I think is incredibly important. And it's becoming more and more difficult to do because people are coming at, especially young people, 16 to 18, in fact, younger, 13 plus, are coming at problems with very entrenched views that need to be challenged. I'm not saying that I need to tell people what to think. I just want to make sure people know how to think.
Mhm.
And that's the key thing for, I think, for most education, is helping young people to think through what's happening both immediately where they are, their immediate context, their local context, their national context, and the international context. I think you can rattle off a number of issues happening around the world that, while they don't immediately affect them, they are symptomatic of things that may. And I think it's really important for them, whichever political side you fall on, when, yeah, some of these in my mind are just it's a slam dunk. This is right, this is wrong. I'm not going to get into that now. This is not a moment for me to talk about politics. But I think for teachers, wherever we are, sitting down and helping a young person understand where they are and what they think, I think is both a responsibility, but also a massive privilege for teachers. I think that for me is kind of quite foremost in my mind, especially because as an international school, we have students from around the world. And they need to, and this is where it comes from, I think, for me, they need to come to a safe space. So they need to come to a space where people can express their opinion and they can express their opinion, and both are treated with respect and understanding and then discussion. But at no point is anybody made to feel that they have been kind of pushed to one side.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's really, really important. I think another thing that, I mean, for me, I suppose kind of from that internationalism side, it moves into things like DEI. So, which I will get into politics now, that I've seen this be kind of pushed to one side in America, for example, which, on top of the issues with American universities, has seen a decline in the number of people applying to American universities from overseas. Whole other issue. But I think yeah, it's like that conversation when with someone in a bar and said, are you a feminist? And person, scoffs at you. Oh, well, why do you say that? Well, do you believe in inequality? Well, yeah, of course I do. Well, okay, so let's have a conversation about it. And I think diversity, equity, inclusion, I think is again, it's a kind of a field covered with landmines, because people are often unsure how to tread and how to work with people from different backgrounds. But no matter what, it's our responsibility as educators to use these ideas to move it forward and to create a safe space for young people, no matter their views, no matter their race, ethnicity, religion, views, orientation. Couldn't give a monkey's. My job is that young person sat in front of me. And I think that as well, in the world we're seeing, I think is going to become more important, as we progress, especially, when we, as it all ties in, I suppose, to the issues of media, saturation, AI saturation, and so on. So those are things that I'm thinking about anyway. And then there's, I mean, university applications. Oh my God, should we talk about that? What on earth is going on? So, I mean, America, the administration is possibly, doing untold damage to its, fantastic, educational brands across America. People are not applying. The UK, admitting more local students than ever before. So the numbers are up. So we don't know what's going on there. So the model of predicted grades is now, well, for the UK especially, is all up in the air. What does that mean for predicted grades? How do we then judge that when we're helping students apply via UCAS? So there's so much that's kind of bubbling up. I think there's a great deal of uncertainty. Don't get me wrong, the guys at UCAS, who are, a charity, I think they're a charity or public body,
They're
love,
other public, I think.
yeah, love them to bits. I went to the UCAS conference, the international one in Edinburgh this year, met loads of them. Think they're fantastic. Think they do a great job in very difficult circumstances. But it's getting the universities, UCAS, and everyone else to kind of work together, and it's not a level playing field because there's secrets on secrets on secrets. So, for us trying to help a young person fulfill an ambition, like, well, just give us the honest information. Can we try and help this person fulfill their dream of going here and doing that? And it's incredibly difficult. And I think that is something that I mean, as a sixth form college, which is effectively what we are, it's what we're going to be working on this year as well. So for us, the very first person they hear from, apart from me, when they come into the college, is the director of university admissions, because it's a 2-year sprint when you're doing IB.
Yeah. I wonder though, why, because I read the news article that talked about, the amount of students that have signed up to go to university this year and how high the number has been in the UK. And I'm like, it's not what I expected, if I'm honest. I actually expected the opposite. I wonder what's keeping those numbers high.
Money.
What is it?
Well, universities are packing them in because they're underfunded. The public bodies, they rely on tuition fees to ensure their institutional sustainability. My prediction for the next 3 years is we'll see universities merge, because they won't be able to sustain themselves, especially, the smaller ones that have maybe arrived in the last kind of 20, 30 years, or the specialist ones will be kind of woven into larger institutions. I think it's almost inevitable, because we're going back to, in the UK anyway, going back to whatever it was, Tony Blair, when he pushed the idea of 50% of people going to university.
I remember
Well,
that.
yeah, but that's great. But okay, is it sustainable? Does it actually fill a need in the country? What is it you're actually offering these people? Because it's not, you're not sending 2.5 million kids off to study classics every year. These are individuals. And it's one of the things I really gets my goat about government policy when they talk about universities like the one giant blob, and it's not. These are, every single student I've ever taught is an individual, and they are important and they are amazing and they deserve better than to be lumped in with this, with a government statistic. And so thinking about what it is they want to get out of their further education, providing something that's useful for them, that is fit for purpose, I think is the responsibility of government, responsibility of the institutions that are still, and I still say this, I think British universities offer probably, pound for pound, the best university education in the world. And I think it's true. I would put, the top 10 universities in the UK up against any other top 10 universities anywhere. And I think they really do an amazing job, and they teach brilliantly. and they fantastic research. And what are we doing as a, for the Brits or this thing, I suppose, what are we doing? I think it's a bit of a mess, and it's something that worries me about the students I have joining us now in 2 years. How am I going to help them get to the place they really want to go to do the thing they really want to do?
Yeah. It's a big question. Apart from that, you're about to head back into school. We're already in staff and students go in next week. What are you excited about?
Oh, everything. I love it. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's the best job in the world. I mean, teaching is literally the best job in the world. You get to be in a situation where anything you do or say can change the way a young person sees themselves or sees the world. You can help someone fulfill their ambitions. It's kind of make a wish. That's what we're there for. Our job is to take these young people and help them achieve those ambitions. I think it's a brilliant job. Um, I mean, I still teach as well, so I'm still in the classroom. So I teach our history course at the college, and for me, that is a great opportunity as well because it means I get to know the kids. I get to understand as well for the college what's going right and what I'm messing up. Because if we're going to be completely honest and open and frank, we always make mistakes. And if I haven't made at least two mistakes by the time I have my second cup of coffee, then it's been a really good day. And so it's being connected. And I think what I'm excited about, I think the relationships that you build every year with new people, new team members, the people that you've been working with that you love and trust, because they are. I'm working with some of the best people I've ever worked with, honestly. They are absolutely amazing educators, and they really not only understand the responsibility of education, but they love it as well. I think that's what when we're looking for people that are coming in, we're really looking for people when we hire into the college with that character of people who get up in the morning and go, yeah, this is going to be cool. I want people who are going to do something mad. I want people who are going to excite the students. I want people who are going to take an impromptu field trip to Toledo. I want people who are going to, blow up the chemistry lab because through that, well, I mean, not literally, but you know what I mean. But it's through that you get the experiences for the students that they learn together. And I think my best experience in the classroom last year was I was teaching possibly the most boring lesson I've ever managed to teach. I don't know what I was getting it wrong. I was getting it so wrong, and they weren't understanding it. And I was like, I'm not explaining this very well. And then one of the students started talking to the other ones. It was kind of like this, and they, oh, okay. And then someone else turned to her and said, so, and then two more people turned to her, and then I sat down, and this student just took over the class and started teaching how she understood it. And I thought, that's brilliant. That's how I'm going to do it next time. Because that's what you do. You're there to help other people learn. But as teachers, we're all lifelong learners. And I think every day you're learning something in class. I think there are two moments in teaching that are really important. The first is when you realize, you're not the smartest person in the room. And the second is when you realize you never were. And it's about then taking all these different ideas and bringing them together. And by the end of any lesson, they should feel stronger, and teachers should feel stronger as well because you're learning from them as you go.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm a romantic. I don't know.
No, I think you're right. I think you are very right. I do think it is the greatest job in the world. Um, and then people are going to be like, if it's so great, why did you leave and don't become a journalist? But you do go through phases in life, and I do think what I do is tantamount to teaching as well. We're at the tail end of the podcast. How can people find you, Barry, if they want to connect, chat, you know?
I make coffee. Yeah, it's no, I'm on LinkedIn. I'll always answer kind of requests to connect. Always happy to chat. I'm very happy to chat. If people want to kind of just yell at each other about AI and what are we going to do. But yeah, I'm very interested in connecting with people. We're kind of growing our project here in Spain, so we're also over time going to be looking at bringing more people on board. So there's, if people are ever thought about shifting tack and moving to sunny Madrid, let me know.
You are not using this podcast to recruit, Barry. That is
I'm using a
not on.
podcast to meet new people and to explore new ideas. But you are a teacher. Let's just rewind a little bit and go back to, I read your stuff. This is every single thing I've ever read from you always sounds to me like a teacher is writing it. So no matter what. So I don't think you ever stop being a teacher once you've done it for even for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
My mate who became a police officer, he didn't stop being a teacher. He spent 10 years in the force, moved to America. He's become a teacher again.
See?
It never leaves you. It never leaves you.
It's in your blood. It's in your blood.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So people, if you want to connect with Barry, he is on LinkedIn. Talk about LinkedIn. I'm trying to get more educators across the region to get onto LinkedIn. Some people find it cringe. I like it because I've, curated a nice community on there. But
Yeah.
I encourage them, Barry.
I
Encourage
think
them.
it's absolutely cringe. I think it can be the most cringe-inducing experience of your life if you end up kind of just following all of these, tech bros or whatever bros, insert kind of adjective here, bro, who want to sell you lots of things, or the humble brags, or it's like, I'm pleased to announce, oh, spare me. No, stop it. But if you kind of pick the people that you're interested in, if you'll find people on there. I follow marketers who talk about marketing in a really interesting way. I follow anthropologists, I follow philosophers, I follow people who run their own businesses. I follow yeah, for me, it was really interesting to follow different kinds of careers, people who are lawyers, people who are in finance, if that's what you're interested in. For me, I'm interested in what are all these industries doing, so I can better advise the young people I've got in my care. I think my posts. I mean, I write whatever I'm thinking about during the day. It's so I'll put stuff out, and I might put stuff out for a couple of weeks on philosophy and AI, or I might start talking about the importance of art, or I might start talking about what we're doing at the college, or interesting ideas, or often I'll go through a phase of just reposting stuff that people are putting out there. What I do find as well is often people will repost articles that are actually quite interesting. So if you've got a kind of a cohort of teachers that you follow, people will repost these articles. I pick these up quite often from different. It's like, oh, hello, I didn't realize that. Fantastic. And you start to pick up this. It's like an information feed. It's and as well, if you've got a collection of people that you're connected with who you think in the same way or part of the same industry, then you're suddenly starting to see connections where you didn't realize there were connections. And for those people who are looking at, I'm not trying to pick people up for jobs in Spain, I promise. No, but if people are interested in it, especially for people who might not be in the UAE, who are listening to this, follow teachers in the UAE to see what they're doing. But as long as they're not posting about brunches every Sunday, but follow people who are there, who are doing fantastic jobs in the UAE, or in the wider GCC area, or in Europe, or in China, or the amazing schools that are now opening in Africa. So the world is your oyster as an educator at the moment. I think it's a really exciting time to be a young educator, because there are international schools kind of bursting out all over the place. Brighton College has just gone into Vietnam. Charterhouse has opened in Nigeria, in Lagos. Rugby is opening in Lagos. Wellington is opening in Lagos. So Nigeria, a country I visited a couple of times, love some jollof rice. But it's a fantastic. I mean, it's a fantastic country. It's a fantastic country with a fantastic culture and heritage. And one of the first books I ever read from a non kind of native English speaker was Chinua Achebe, and I read Things Fall Apart in like 1991 or something, or before that, and it's eye opening. And all of these things are now open to young teachers who are interested in exploring where teaching might take them. So I think the world is there on social media, whichever social media you use, but you have to have your BS detector out,
Yeah.
uh, because there's a lot of it.
Oh
So
God. And with AI, there's a lot more.
Oh my word, so many AI responses and AI comments, and I was like, why are you doing this? I
What
mean,
is the point?
back to this whole idea of metrics. It's like, why do you want loads and loads of followers? Why do you want huge amounts of it doesn't mean anything. What I'm really interested in is having a conversation. I think that's what most educators are interested in too.
So get on, guys. Get get going and become a part of the community and block the cringy stuff. There there is a block way. There's
There's a block button. Oh,
block.
liberal use of the block button. I am a big fan of the block button.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Barry.
Thank you, and I offer my apologies. I didn't really mean to try and hire people through your podcast. I'm now
Ah,
really good.
stop. I'm
It's
joking.
it's a real privilege to be on your podcast. Yeah, as I said before, you're one of the people that whenever you post, I do not scroll past. I read everything you put out. So it's a real pleasure to have a conversation with you.
Likewise. Thank you so much.